Oh, hi. I'm a smart investor. I dare say that because I understand the cryptocurrency markets and I am up to date on every new development, fintech and blockchain ecosystem. All because I watch the Inside Blockchain show on Crypto TV Plus. Every Monday morning, Crypto TV Plus brings you news headlines of top stories, interview with an expert, and give you detailed market analysis to enable you make the right business moves. Now you too can become a smart investor if you don't miss it. The Inside Blockchain Show, only on Crypto TV Plus.
Hello and welcome. This is Inside Blockchain, your one-stop for everything crypto and blockchain. I'm your host, Faith Ekwari. If this is your first time watching this program, make sure to follow us across all social media platforms and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay updated in this ever-evolving world of blockchain and cryptocurrency. Do want to turn on your post notification button. Now, localization is key in the Web3 space as the decentralized nature of this technology opens up opportunities for global markets and communities. Now, product managers and developers need to consider cultural, linguistic, and regulatory differences when designing products and services for different regions. Now, Web3 is set to revolutionize everything from finance to commerce to social media and entertainment to providing more democratic, participatory, and user-centric experience. As blockchain technology continues to mature and evolve, it's clear that Web3 is poised to transform the online world in ways we can't even imagine. By adapting Web3 products to local needs, companies can increase user adoption and engagement while remaining compliant with regional regulations. Now, today we'll be discussing embracing localization in Web3 and its future as it regards to adoption and regulation. Let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Don't go anywhere. We're back.
Don't get stuck in the past. Get all the latest news and happenings on blockchain and cryptocurrency only on Crypto TV Plus.
Searching for target found.
Hey guys, welcome into the metaverse on Crypto TV Plus. In today's video, we're going to be taking a portal into the Robo Hero metaverse. Let's go Robo! Robo Hero is the first play-to-earn mobile game with a metaverse built on the Terra network, where gamers can have a good virtual experience while making money. It was developed by 3 blockchain professionals with insight into trading and crypto markets.
Hello, my name is Chiki and I'm the Bull of the Bullet.
Keep watching Crypto TV Plus.
Don't touch that. Peace.
Welcome back. This is Inside Blockchain. I am Faith Ekwari. If this is your first time watching this program, make sure to follow us across all social media platforms and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay updated. Do have to turn on your post notification button as well. Now, today we'll be discussing embracing localization in the Web3 space and its future as regards to adoption and regulation. Joining us is an experienced product manager and the chief of staff at Nestcoin, Caddle. Maya, how are you doing today?
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Amazing. It feels great to have you joining us virtually on today's episode of the Inside Blockchain show.
Thank you.
Amazing. So before we get into the conversation, let's talk about you and your journey into Web3 and the crypto space.
Sure. So my first full-time job within Web3 was always at Nestcoin. But before that, I've been dabbling in crypto in a bit. The first time I kind of engaged in crypto was back in 2016. I was really into Ripple and their token XRP at the time. And then kind of re-emerged into the crypto space again back in 2017, 2018. So not the bull market that's just ended, but the one before that. Unfortunately, bought crypto at the peak rather than when it was low and sold it for a profit. And then what happened was I'd been working in localization from a Web2 perspective. So localization is thinking about how you're building products that are applicable to different market contexts. And it's about a lot more than just languages. There's a lot that comes into play when it comes to localization. And I'd known I'd known Yele. I'm the CEO of Nestcoin for a little while. We were just talking, and he wanted me to come on board, and so that's how I joined Nestcoin. And I started out at Nestcoin as a product manager and lead in charge of one of our businesses. So Nestcoin started off as a venture studio. And the whole premise was we were building different products in the crypto space for Africa predominantly. And so I was the product lead for our key business, which is called Onboard. And so I built out the initial version of that, and part of the initial iteration. And at the time, Onboard was predominantly and only a non-custodial peer-to-peer on and off-ramping protocol. Since it's since evolved, we've publicly launched the product in a more, it's more of an enhanced product, which we recently launched, also called under the name Onboard still. So built the initial version of that, and then I became chief of staff at Nestcoin. So I've been chief of staff for I think it's going on 9 months now, actually, and which has been an amazing experience, and especially in the context of Web3, and especially with everything that's been going on recently in the space. So that's really been my main career journey up until now when it comes to Web3. But before that, my whole background has been around emerging markets. So lived and worked in Hong Kong, focused on Southeast Asia, and building products for different Southeast Asian markets. Did something similar in the context of East Africa, was working for a neobank there, helping them launch into Kenya, and then also consulted a Tanzanian telecom about building mobile money products for the Muslim community. And then worked in a tech unicorn, a UK-based tech unicorn, and led their expansion into the Arabic-speaking world, so the Middle East and Northern Africa, before joining Nestcoin. But apart from that, I do a lot of different things. I'm actually starting a new project called ImagineOnChain. And the whole premise is to demystify African crypto for local investors.
So Maya, we're gonna get to Imagine on-chain. We're gonna get to all of those, but we want to still touch on some of the basics, especially when it comes to you as a product manager, more experienced and in that space. Let's move on to the next question. What are some of the key differences between developing products on a Web3 versus on a centralized system, and what advantage does the Web3 approach offer? Sure.
So when it comes to the differences, I think one of the key differences, of course, is that you have to you have to engage rather with blockchain technology, right? And if you're not someone who's native to Web3 or has built Web3 products, that's a very different way of approaching things, right? It's especially from an engineering perspective, it does also have ramifications on from a product perspective. And that's when you think about how the product flows and the user experience. So that is something that's really important, and historically in the crypto space has been overlooked, right? Historically, the crypto space has predominantly been led by very technical people, rather than people who are more product minded. And then that's, of course, we're starting to evolve away from that. So that's one of the key nuances, right? How do you almost abstract some of the complexities of blockchain technology for the user? That is a core difference that you have to deal with if you're a good product manager in Web3. Another part of that, or another thing that you have to engage and think about, is especially when it comes to building DeFi products, you really have to think about how you're engaging with the TradFi world, because in reality, DeFi, in my opinion at least, will never truly be separated from TradFi, right? Unless there's going to be a revolution tomorrow somewhere, fiat currencies like Naira, like USD will always be important and will still be used. And so you have to really think about how you're integrating and working with TradFi in different ways. So one thing to think about, of course, is on and off ramps. What on and off ramps are you using? Are they truly localized, etc.? And apart from that, that also applies to banking partners if you need that within the context of your DeFi solution. Not everyone does, but there's loads of different integrations and partnerships that you have to think about, and especially as in certain key countries, regulators are a bit hesitant and skeptical when it comes to crypto, there may be challenges around that you also have to bear in mind. I think those are the key broader things that come to mind when it comes to the distinction between building in Web 2 versus building in Web 3. So I guess to summarize, it's definitely that how are you thinking about your product flows, how are you thinking about your user experience and abstracting some of the difficulties. And the other ones is how are you thinking about integrations and how your crypto product is linking to the real world systems and infrastructure.
Amazing, amazing. In one of your write-ups, you talked about, most of the project owners and builders building for the community from the Western point of view, especially when it comes to Africa. So I want you to elaborate on that. In building the best projects and products, what has been the biggest shortcoming or mistakes, builders, developers, and project owners make in Africa?
So I guess when it comes to mistakes, for me, I don't actually think there's mistakes that are unique to Africa. At the end of the day, Web3 is still new. It's still incredibly new technology. And so there's just more general mistakes. I think generally a lot of people put utility secondary, especially in the last bull market. And so it was very much focused on like the technology being the ends rather than the means. Crypto in itself is a means, in my opinion, just like internet is, right? The internet is. If you truly want to achieve mass adoption, go in and shout out that, hey, we're using blockchain technology, or hey, there's this cryptocurrency or token attached to our project. The average person on the street just simply, it doesn't make a difference to them, right? It's not going to help them achieve whatever they're trying to achieve. But rather by leading into the utility more, that is what is really important. And I think that's true not just in Africa, I think that's true more broadly. One thing that is more African specific is that we've seen a lot of the innovation, or a lot of what is being built in the context of Africa are exchanges. And it makes sense, right? You can make a lot of money from centralized exchanges. But there's a lot more. And one thing that I'm interested in seeing, and it's not a mistake that people have made, but it's I guess a challenge to the ecosystem more broadly, is I'm interested in seeing innovation outside of exchanges, because there's so much more that we need to build, and innovation shouldn't just be coming from the West. There should be innovation closer to where the utility is, which is where a lot of the utility exists on the continent of Africa, from my experience.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Maya. We're still talking and discussing about embracing localization, and we'll get into it right after this break. Don't go anywhere, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Don't get stuck in the past. Get all the latest news and happenings on blockchain and cryptocurrency only on Crypto TV Plus.
The floor price of any NFT is important in measuring the value, the popularity, and the utility that NFT provides. So what does NFT floor price even mean? The floor price is the current lowest price of an NFT in an NFT collection, and the floor price of any NFT changes from time to time. It's either moving up or going down. Take for example that I set the My Hand NFT collection initial price for 0.3 Ether, which is about $1,500. If another buyer buys that NFT,
Hello, my name is Chiki and I'm the Bo of the Bullet.
Keep watching Crypto TV Plus.
Don't touch that. Peace.
welcome back. This is Inside Blockchain. If this is your first time watching this program, make sure to follow us across all social media platforms and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay updated. Now, talking about your projects, Maya, you're working towards launching a project that's ImagineOnChain. What is it all about, and what impact will it make in setting the standard for Imagine crypto projects?
Sure. So ImagineOnChain focuses on initially demystifying African crypto, and that's especially for local investors, founders, senior operators, and also foreign investors, founders, and senior operators. The premise is really to highlight what is being built in the African crypto scene. So, for example, you could, if you were to go around to investors and notable crypto investors and ask them how many venture-backed crypto projects do we have in Africa, few struggle to give, or it's hard to get coherent answers. You get very different answers. And so ImagineOnChain is beginning simply with databases and data that provides insights into what is actually happening on the ground. So that we launched our first database earlier this week, and that's focused on a list of crypto projects that have been backed by VC funds. And that tells you who they've been backed by, how much they've raised at different fundraising rounds, etc., and also when. But we also evolving to do different things. And one of the key things that we're leaning into is community events. We've done that in the past. So we had our first community events in Kenya back in February, and managed to get an amazing group of about 60 investors, founders, senior operators from across the continent together. And just to really discuss what the future of crypto looks like. And so we will be rolling out more events like that, predominantly virtual events, so we can bring people from across the continent together to discuss that. And that is what ImagineOnChain is to begin with, but we'll be rolling out loads more beyond that. That's just the starting point. I guess, to use a common crypto phrase, it is just day one after all.
Amazing. It is just the starting point for ImagineOnChain. Localization is one big topic for you and a major part of the conversation today. So what does localization of crypto or Web3 products mean, and what benefit does it bring to the ecosystem at large?
Sure. So I guess firstly, let's begin with what localization means, full stop. As I said before, localization is about a lot more than just languages, right? It is about things like, so for example, localization between Nigeria and the UK looks different. So I'll give a non-crypto example. There's different words and phrases that we'll use to describe different things. And so that comes into account when it comes to localization. Depending on what your product is, you may have to localize to different time zones. You may have to localize to different ways of formatting dates. You may have to localize to also different currencies, of course, is the obvious form of localization, and therefore different payment methods as well. And so this is all encapsulated largely within localization and internationalization. So those are the two key ways to describe really what I've said. Internationalization is predominantly building the infrastructure so you can then localize to the different markets in their specific context. In the context of Web3, as I said, we're just starting to see people start to think about localization. And so let's ignore languages because that's an obvious one. People will start thinking about that. Let's think about localization in other contexts. So one of the main things within localization that I think about is especially on and off ramps. And so I always like to be as applicable as possible. So on ramping, of course, is going from fiat to cryptocurrency. So, for example, going from Nigerian Naira to Bitcoin, and off ramp is the reverse. So going from Bitcoin to your local fiat currency. Now, there's many companies that just do on and off ramping globally. So you have the likes of a Wire, a MoonPay, etc. that are global players. And there's many companies, on and off ramping companies, that also say they can serve Africa. But in the context of Africa, localization in on and off ramping looks different, right? It is firstly it's less likely about direct on and off ramps, especially in countries like Nigeria. It's more classified as what I call indirect on and off ramps. So the biggest form of indirect on and off ramps are peer-to-peer on and off ramps. But there are other forms of on and off ramping or indirect on and off ramping that exist. Apart from that, it's also then thinking about how, like, another form of localization in Web3 can be applied to NFT projects, right? So a lot of NFT projects aren't really localized, or global NFT projects I'm talking about aren't really localized to, let's say, the African context. So they sometimes are just too expensive for someone to buy into, right? Or the average person to buy into. So how are we thinking about even simple things like affordability? Another thing is thinking about user experience, right? So let's take traditional banking and traditional forms of payments, right? So in the context of Nigeria, bank transfers are quite popular. In the context of Kenya, it's M-Pesa. Ghana, it's Momo. Zambia, you have Airtel's mobile money, etc. And so if you think about what that user experience then looks like and feels like for the average consumer, is there a way, especially if you're building a DeFi product, how can you make your DeFi product experience mimic that or feel natural and easy? and amongst many other things. But those are a few examples of what localization looks like and what you should be considering when it comes to localization. But fundamentally, the most important thing is whatever you're building, really think about the infrastructure layer. Think about making sure that you can easily swap in different contexts, different labels, whether that is like time, if you have that in your product, whether that is date format, whether that is currency. And there are fundamentally open source libraries that you can use. So CLDR is the most famous one internationally. I don't know how effective it is in the context of Africa, but it is very widely used. So localization of Web3 is not something that people discuss a lot or think about, but it is incredibly important, especially as African crypto companies start to expand into multiple markets or abroad. And also as we are now seeing when Western crypto companies start to expand into African markets. It's not enough just to use the right phrases or languages. You really need to get your localization right, because perception, engagement with your product will vary dependent upon that, and it's something you should be considering really as part of your go-to-market strategy in any new market.
You know, while you were just saying it, I just thought about, you know, one of the interviews you had on one panel session where you talked about regulation is probably always the elephant in the room. Looking at the regulatory uncertainty in most parts of the world, do you think localization on most of these Web3 products and projects will be able to scale through in bringing in massive adoption into the blockchain space?
Regulation is a tricky one, for sure. And as you've quite rightly said, you know, we're not in the best times from a regulatory perspective, especially in Western markets when it comes to crypto and Web3 more broadly. And it will impact different aspects of Web3 to different extents, right? So of course they're going after cryptocurrencies to begin with, and especially centralized exchanges to begin with, right? And hopefully that, you know, as time goes on, we can better engage with regulators and help them understand that actually cryptocurrencies and Web3 as a whole could be a helping hand for their economy's development rather than the other way round. And so I guess when it comes to then how you're thinking about building, you need to make sure that you're thinking ahead of the curve, right? So if you're building a DeFi product, yes, technically you don't need to KYC, but you know that if you look at TradFi, they usually do KYC, and it's regulatory, is mandated usually by regulators that they do some form of KYC, right, to know who on earth is using their platform. So maybe think about that so that you seem more friendly also to regulators and more compliant to what regulators would expect. I think beyond that, it just comes down to engaging with regulators and thinking ahead of the curve. So rather than waiting for regulation to come in, crypto founders, bodies and entities need to come together more. And we are starting to see that in different regions of Africa, but coming together more to really discuss and say, hey, this is what crypto means. And this is how we think it can benefit you and your economy. And what do you need to feel comfortable with it? I was in Zambia recently, and we were really fortunate, a small group of us were fortunate to also meet the Zambian finance minister and really start discussing what crypto and technology more broadly, but also Web3 in particular, could look like and how it could really benefit Zambia. And so those early discussions, they take time, unfortunately, but they are really fundamental. And then the other hand is, the other side of this is then companies and startups taking the initiative themselves to think, okay, how can we benefit the benefits of, or how can we balance the benefits of Web3 and crypto, whilst also thinking ahead of the curve and making sure that we are regulator friendly in how we approach building our products and services.
Let's go on a quick break. Maya has broken down a little bit on what localization means and what it means for the Web3 community, especially in Africa. When we'll come back, we'll be wrapping up today's episode. Don't go anywhere, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Don't get stuck in the past. Get all the latest news and happenings on blockchain and cryptocurrency only on Crypto TV Plus.
It's raining free crypto. Lucky for me, I've got my crypto wallet to pick them up. That's basically what airdrops are. Crypto airdrops are practically free token giveaways, which have become a common highlight in the crypto ecosystem of recent. The distribution of crypto airdrops are usually done by decentralized applications, new blockchain services, or crypto projects. The details of crypto airdrops will also emphasize its role as a marketing tool.
Hello, my name is Chiki and I'm the Bull of the Bull.
Keep watching Crypto TV Plus.
Don't touch that dial. Peace.
Welcome back. Right before we wrap up today's episode, let's touch on the future of Web3 and localization of some of the products and projects we have in Africa. Maya, in your opinion, what will foster global Web3 expansion and crypto adoption, amidst the regulatory uncertainty that you've talked about, amidst some of the shortcomings that we have, especially when it comes to user experience, when it comes to localization, the on and off ramps. What do you think will move us forward, when it comes to expansion and adoption, and what is the future of Web3, DeFi, TradFi, NFTs, Metaverse, and all of those innovations at large?
So I'll start by saying more broadly, and then I'll also focus on specifically in the African context. So more on a global basis, it's the simple fundamental things, right? So how are you thinking about utility? And that should be at the forefront of what you're building. I'm tired of hearing of crypto projects and asking, okay, but why? Why is this better than what already exists? Or what problem does this solve? And, people kind of responded with just leading with what the innovation and technological innovation is. That's not enough anymore. The other thing is also then abstracting some of the complexities that blockchain technology naturally has. So, for example, there's a number of different protocols and initiatives and companies that have launched to help with this, whether you think of, for example, a Web3 auth. When it comes to creating a non-custodial wallet, the idea of, let's say, signing a transaction or having seed phrases is not a natural thing, and that can be a barrier for some people. So if we want to think about mass adoption, we need to be thinking about things like that as well and abstracting some of the complexities. And then I guess a third thing linked to that on a global scale is really asking yourself, think that sometimes it's okay for crypto to be felt but not seen. And what I mean by that, it's sometimes perfectly great, if in many ways, for crypto to be in the background, powering a lot of these systems without it being really overt that it's always cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. That may be another way to really appeal to masses, and that helps abstract some of the difficulties as well. In the context of Africa specifically, for us to really move forward, it is really important for us to keep innovating and become a region or have hubs which are truly pushing the needle forward when it comes to crypto innovation. And we are starting to see that, we're seeing projects like PNS, for example, which I think will really push the needle forward. Even, let's say, Goldfinch, whilst it may not be completely an African crypto project, it focuses heavily on Africa. And, it's a very successful crypto project in itself. And so it's really important that as I personally believe, there's a lot of utility for crypto in Africa, we need more innovation to be happening closer to where the utility is. And that's really, really fundamental and key for Africa's crypto development more broadly. It's not going to be easy, and there are challenges with that for sure. But I believe that over time we'll have more support and there'll be ways to enable that further. And then finally and fundamentally, it's also thinking about when you're building crypto projects, how can you be regulatory friendly / neutral? And that is really thinking about, okay, what would the regulator expect in a non-Web3 version of this? What can I see would upset a regulator if I don't have it? And then linked to that, engagement with regulators early. And that is a long journey. It's not an easy journey, but it's an important one that for the whole scene, we all need to take and work together on.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We have to see more utilities from where these crypto projects are emerging. Maya, Caddle, thank you so much for joining in on today's episode. We had a blast with you on the show, and I hope next time when you're coming on, you will bring in more fire and more information for us from the Web3 space. And I hope that the regulation has balanced up, especially when it comes to exchanges and trading in the crypto industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that will be all on today's program. You can get more market updates and other happenings captured within the world of blockchain and cryptocurrency on our website, cryptotvplus.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at cryptotvplus to get daily info on our programs. Thank you for staying with us. I am Faith Ekwari. I had Maya Caddle who joined virtually. We'll see you next week. Bye, guys.